Meanwhile, in the hospital...
Honey, you did great.
But look at me, I look so bad.
Well, you did just give birth. What do you expect? But don't worry, you still look beautiful.
Francis and Thomas Keats, your new baby boy.
Aw, he's so cute.
What do you want to name him?
Definitely John.
John Keats was born on October 31st, 1795 in London, England. John Keats was the oldest of 4 children of Francis and Thomas Keats. From a very young age, he lived in a very joyful household.
Hi. Nice to see you again.
When John Keats was 8 years old,
Bye, honey.
Where are you going?
I was gonna go riding for a little bit.
Okay, be careful.
Okay. I'll see you later.
Bye. Thomas Keats went and got his horse and began riding around. Unfortunately, he was carelessly eating a hot dog at the same time, and his horse threw him off and trampled him, resulting in his death, which was a very tragic time for John Keats. Oh my God! Are you okay?
that day, young John Keats and his mother received some terrible news.
Hello? I think your husband has died! What? Honey!
His father's death had a profound effect on the young boy's life. In a more abstract sense, it shaped Keats' understanding for the human condition, both its suffering and its loss. This tragedy and others helped ground Keats' later poetry, one that found its beauty and grandeur from the human experience.
See? I told you he was dead.
After the death of John's father, Thomas Keats, the family's financial security was greatly disrupted.
I just don't even know how I'm gonna pay these bills.
Frances seemed to have launched a series of missteps and mistakes after her husband's death. She quickly remarried and then lost a good portion of the family's wealth. After Frances Keats' financial crisis, her tuberculosis only worsened.
Mrs. Keats, we're doing everything we can to keep you stable. Mrs. Keats! Mrs. Keats? 6:30 p.m., time of death.
Unfortunately, in 1810, Francis Keats passed away from tuberculosis.
After the time of his parents' death, he found comfort in art and literature. At Enfield Academy, he became close with the school's headmaster, John Clark, who served as sort of a father figure to the orphan student and encouraged his interest in literature.
You know, I think I might want to be a writer.
I think you should. Writing lets you express yourself and express your ideas to others. There's been many great writers produced out of this high school.
In the fall of 1810, Keats left Enfield Academy for studies to become a surgeon.
Since your parents died as your new guardian, I think that you should become a surgeon instead and drop out of this school.
But I really wanted to be a writer.
I know, but it'll just be a better life for you to be a surgeon and a doctor than just a writer.
In 1813, John Keats began writing poetry, but also worked as a wound dresser in London Hospital.
Roses are red. Violets are blue.
Excuse me, sir, you have a patient.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, of course. Oh, wow. What seems to be the problem?
Clearly my leg.
It's okay. We'll have you fixed up right away.
Oh, thank you.
Can you hold some pressure on that for me? Thank you. I'll be right back.
Okay, please hurry.
Roses are red, violets are blue.
Sir,
And that's
sir,
too overdone.
I'm still bleeding here.
Oh, what rhymes with breath?
I I don't know. I'm in pain. I'm bleeding.
All right.
Help me.
Even as he studied medicine, his devotion for art and literature never ceased.
So, got any favorite poets?
I don't know.
Really?
It was obvious to him what his true calling was.
There. Finished. What should I call it, though? Poems.
In 1817, Keats published his first volume of poetry.
Have you heard John Keats' new poetry?
Yeah, it's awful.
I
I don't
know.
think it's good at all.
Awful.
He's not gonna be a good writer.
No.
Keats had committed himself to writing at least 40 lines a day in the summer or fall of 1817. He completed the work in November of that year, and it was published in April 1818.
John, you're new. I really don't think this was very good at all. It low-key sucked. I'm sorry. Not my favorite.
John Keats's first two books were poorly sold and criticized immensely. However, this did not stop him, and he continued writing despite all the ridicule.
Dear Diary, today, my poems were ridiculed. But haters are the motivators, and I won't stop the grind. John.
In the same year, 1818, John Keats' health began to decline as he experienced physical and emotional crisis. He also began to show signs of tuberculosis. Also in 1818, the death of his brother Tom due to tuberculosis had a severe impact on John Keats.
What's wrong?
I just can't get the image of my dear brother Tom out of my head. He passed away this evening.
Of what?
Tuberculosis. Unfortunately, it runs in the family.
Around this same time, Keats fell in love with a woman named Fanny.
Hi, I'm Fanny Braun.
Oh, hi, I'm John Keats. Do you want to go for a walk?
Yeah, of course.
Let's go.
Deeply in love.
Fanny?
Yeah.
I just want to say, I fall in love with you. Will you make me the happiest man alive and marry me?
Of course. I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
After meeting Fanny, the love of his life, John was still continuing his writing career. He wrote some of his best literature during this time, one being a famous sonnet, "When I have fears that I may cease to be."
When I have fears that I may cease to be.
What are you doing?
Oh, just writing another poem. But, Fanny, there's something I must tell you. I can't marry you because, well, tuberculosis runs in my family and I'm doomed to pass away from it. And also, I wouldn't have the money to support us. We would only live in poverty.
In When I Have Fears That I May Cease to Be, John Keats expresses many desires that he wishes to accomplish throughout his life. He is too young and only worried about love and fame. Also, this makes him too innocent and naive to realize how difficult it is to accomplish such great fame and love.
Because of this, throughout the poem, he has the mindset that love and fame together are the two most important things in his whole life, and so that's his only concern and his goals that would consist within his life.
In the beginning of the poem, it is clearly noticed that he has a fear of dying young because of his signs of tuberculosis and also the death of his mother and brother, both from tuberculosis. And he develops a fear that he won't fulfill himself as a writer and lose his beloved Fanny. But then, in the end, he comes to realize the unimportance of love and fame when he says, "Of the wide world I stand alone and think, till love and fame to nothingness do sink."
In addition, within the poem, he glorifies all aspects of nature. Some of these examples include
Hold like rich garners the full ripened grain. Huge cloudy symbols of a high romance. Never have relish in the fairy power.
He also realizes that there is a large, wide world around him when he says, "Of the wide world, I stand alone." Throughout, when I have fears that I may cease to be, he imagines all the things he desires to accomplish before he dies, but realizes he is dying too soon to accomplish all of these things.
To love and fame, to nothingness do sink. Done. When I have fears that I may cease to be. I think this might be my best one yet.
Wow, I'm reading over this new sonnet, When I Have Fears That I May Cease to Be. This is so good. So good.
Wow,
You should feel proud. Much better than poems. This is really good, though.
Thanks.
Good job, buddy. During this time, John Keats really focused on his writing career. He gained a lot of popularity and success and became very well known as an author. He wrote a lot of poems, especially, and gained a lot of respect for all of them.
When I have fears that I may cease to be. Done. Ode on a Grecian urn. Done. Ode to a nightingale. Done. La Belle Dame Sans Merci. Done. Wow, really pumping these out. I mean, I knew writing was my passion, but I didn't know I could be so successful at it. I did face a lot of adversity, though, with my tuberculosis and everything, but I think that I overcame that, and I was able to develop as a writer because of those things that I faced in my life.
Have you read John Keats' new poem, When I Have Fears That I May Cease to Be?
Yeah, it's such a good sonnet.
I know.
All around, this poem was widely praised by critics and conveyed Keats's intense longing for Fanny, for immortality, and for the beauty of the natural world.
In the fall of 1820, John Keats' illness progressed.
Man, I really gotta get out of here.
I know, buddy, you aren't doing too good at all.
I know, my lungs are killing me. I'm dying here.
Maybe you should move to Italy. They have a much milder climate.
Really? You think that'd help?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. How's their Stromboli?
The best.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll help you pack.
Alright, let's go.
Let's go, buddy.
Less than 6 months after moving to Italy for a milder climate, John Keats became terminally ill.
I don't think I can do it.
Yes, you can.
My lungs aren't strong enough.
We're trying to do everything we can.
Try harder, doctor.
Here, try to take this medicine.
Oh, the lungs.
Take the medicine.
I can't. It's not gonna help.
Mr.
Eat
Keats.
some Stromboli for me.
Mr. Keats. Mr. Keats. Mr. Keats. Time of death. 7:04 p.m.
No. John, my dear friend. No. Why must the good die young? Oh my gosh.
You'll be okay.
No, it won't.
I think it's time to go.
Doc, who else am I gonna smash Stromboli with?
I'm here.
It's just not the same.
John Keats died on February 23rd, 1821, at the age of 25.
So, where are we gonna bury John now?
Here in Rome should be good.
He would love that. He loved Rome.
Yeah, it's so sad that he died.
I know. So, what are we gonna end up putting on his tombstone though? I don't have any ideas.
Here lies the one whose name was writ in water.
Oh my gosh, how'd you come up with that? That's amazing.
He wrote it himself.
Before he died?
Yeah, he wanted it to be his epitaph.
John Keats was buried in Rome, Italy in 1821 under an epitaph that he had composed for himself. It reads, "Here lies the one whose name was writ in water." Even though he died at such a young age, his legacy carries on today through all of his writings, which reflect his sufferings throughout his life. John Keats had a short-lived writing career that will live on forever.